Most RPG combat sucks. We've all encountered the same issues. Waiting for your turn is boring. Fights slow to a crawl at high levels. Despite nearly infinite character build options, your choice in combat is limited to whatever hyper-specific level path you're forced to choose. You don't have tactics. You have a button that you push over and over and over every single round. The game simply boils down to which side can deplete the other's resources first. If you've been in one combat, you've been in them all. But what if instead of just chipping away at a bag of hit points, you could break someone's femur into a bag of gravel instead? What if instead of worrying about gaming your AC to absurd height, you always had the fear that someone could slip a knife between your plate armor and cut an artery? What if, as a magic user, having expended all your spells, you could still be in the fight and change the tide of the battle? If you've always wanted your RPG combat to feel like it had real stakes, real choice, and real consequences, then you need to play Mythras, because this game gives you all of that and so much more. In Mythras, you aren't just stuck waiting for your turn to roll around in the initiative order. When you're attacked, you get to do something about it. If you're a magic user, you can still wade into battle swinging a greatsword and cut swaths through your foes. And Mythras gives you all of the system's combat features from the very beginning of the game. Nothing is locked away from behind experience walls, feat trees, or class restrictions. And while there is serious mechanical depth to the combat system, it's a breeze to use and play. So how does this actually work? Mythras is a D100 skill-based system in the tradition of RuneQuest and BRP. When you create your character, you choose a combat style that has a skill rating like any other. Your combat style incorporates all of the different weapons that your character knows how to use, so you don't need to choose individual or group weapon proficiencies to be capable of using most weapons. Like most D100 systems, to use this skill, you try to roll under the skill rating in order to succeed. Lower is better, and very low is best. So if my combat style rating is 65%, I want to roll 65 or under to succeed. But like I said, if you're being attacked, you don't just have to sit there and take it. Mythras uses opposed rolls, so while I make an attack against you, you can actively defend against me. Both participants are playing the game at the same time. How this action is resolved is by comparing the results of the rolls and seeing who did better. This is really simple and boils down to seeing the difference in levels of success that each combatant has. When I attacked, did I critically succeed, fail, or fumble? What about the defender? We compare our results, and the difference in success opens up the secret sauce of the Mythras combat system: special effects. Special effects are fucking awesome. These are maneuvers that are available to everyone from the beginning of the game, and they change the course of combat drastically. For instance, if my attack was a crit and your defense was a failure, I get 2 levels of success that can be used to apply 2 special effects against you. So if I attacked you with a spear, I could use the Impale special effect to not only get advantage on my damage roll, but to drive the spear through you and leave it stuck in your body. Additionally, I could add the Bleed special effect, which means that I severed a blood vessel in addition to any damage. This means if you don't immediately treat the wound, you're going to bleed out and possibly die in a few short rounds. But if the success levels were reversed and my attack was a failure against your critical defense, the defender would get to choose special effects against me. This might include causing me to injure myself with my own weapon and tripping me so that I'm prone until I can't get up on my next turn. Defending yourself from an attack is not a passive act, so even when it's not your turn, you're actually doing something in combat. This makes combat extremely dynamic, and because every character has access to the same pool of maneuvers, players learn the whole combat system very, very quickly, and the game, it just flows. The burden of needing to learn all the permutations of class abilities, feats, and a titanic list of persistent conditions that only gets more burdensome as the levels go up is just gone. Everyone learns one system. The system has a lot of options that can actually be used tactically, moment to moment in a fight, and keeps you engaged in the excitement of the combat. And while each special effect has its own rules, they're named very clearly. Without having the specific rule committed to memory, if I wanted to use the overextend opponent special effect, I already sort of have an idea of what it's going to do. I can easily look it up at the table, and the game can keep moving without grinding to a halt. Nearly every special effect description is a paragraph of text or less. You don't have to hunt through multiple sections of the book or read a half a page of rules permutations to understand what it does and how to use it. And on top of that, Mythras uses hit locations, which gives a whole new level of depth to the immersion of the game. If you think hit locations are useless bookkeeping or slow down the game, you are absolutely wrong. This adds so much to role-playing. It paints a picture in your mind of exactly what is happening on the battlefield, as well as adding depth to the gameplay itself. If you take a serious wound in your sword arm, you're going to drop your weapon. This is going to make things desperate and heart-pumping, because that's the other thing about Mythras combat. While your skills may increase over time, your hit points don't. While your character may be as fearsome as Conan every time you jump into combat, the adrenaline is going to be pumping because you can be maimed and you can be killed. But death in Mythras doesn't come from depleting a single hit point pool. There are 3 levels of wounds you can sustain: minor, serious, and major wounds. Each hit location on your body has its own hit points. Your right arm might have 5 hit points. A minor wound consists of all the cuts and bruises you'll sustain, which don't pose mortal danger to you. Any damage that doesn't reduce the hit points of a location to 0 are all considered a minor wound and do not inflict any additional penalties. If a location goes to 0 or lower, you'll take a serious wound and things start getting really bad. If you get hit in the arm, you'll drop your weapon and the limb is now useless. If you get hit in the leg, you'll drop prone. But if you get hit in the head, chest, or abdomen, you may fall unconscious for the rest of the fight, and even if you do survive, you're going to have a horrible scar and long healing process to getting that location functioning properly. But if a location is reduced to a negative score equal to or greater than its starting hit points, that location is instantly severed, pulped, or utterly destroyed. You fall unconscious and possibly even instantly die. That is a major wound. Now, obviously, neither you nor anyone else wants to suffer a major wound. This makes combat very deadly and potentially very costly. It means that most fights won't always be to the death, and that combat will never drag on for hours and hours at a time. What it does mean is that combat is going to be decisive, take strategy and tactics, and you'll be on the edge of your seat the entire time. And as a GM, this is really easy to run, even with less powerful enemies. Not every fight has to be against pure combatants, and if you want your hordes of goobers for your players to wade through without the bookkeeping of tracking hit locations for an entire mob, Mythras has you covered with Rabble and underlings. Rabble and underlings are simplified and weaker enemies that don't need individual tracking of all combat parameters. Rabble are generally just mobs of unskilled foes that can't use special effects and either die screaming or run away after sustaining a single wound. Underlings, though, are more dangerous. They can use special effects, just like your players, and can sustain 2 wounds before giving up the ghost. Both of these simplified enemies also have morale baked in too, so they're not always just going to slog it out to the death with your player characters, and you don't need to keep track of their hit points by location. But for those fights with iconic enemies, evil monsters, and hated foes, you have a system that's easy to learn but provides unparalleled depth in the combat experience. And you should build your foes like your player characters to make those battles positively titanic. And this is one of the reasons that we chose the orc-licensed Mythras Imperative as the basis of our upcoming supplement, Cults of Zahak. This book has everything that you need to build truly evil and powerful antagonists that your players will demand the opportunity to destroy in battle. You'll find a series of pre-made cults worshipping an ancient evil deity that can be dropped into your fantasy world, and a system of vile black magic that the priests of Zahak use to sow chaos and despair across the land. You'll also get a detailed examination of the idols of Zahak, the terrible golems that these blasphemous cults create and worship, and a full adventure in the city of Avalok, where Zahak's influence is corrupting the very soul of the settlement itself. Check the link on screen and in the description to get notified for the upcoming Kickstarter. Mythras has an interesting reputation as being a super crunchy game, and while that's not untrue, its crunch is not burdensome, and it's not complicated. There's significantly less math to do than in D&D, and the majority of resolving conflicts boils down to comparing the results of opposed die rolls. There is a lot of depth in the combat, but the process is dead simple, and if you can remember this sequence, you'll be able to run it without any issues. 1. Roll initiative to determine turn order. 2. Compare the results of opposed attack and defense rolls. 3. Choose special effects. 4. Determine hit location. And 5, roll damage and apply wounds. This really is simple. If you've been scared off from Mythras because it's described as too crunchy and convoluted, you actually have it completely backwards. Most D&D variants are bloated and complicated. Mythras, on the other hand, just isn't. You'll learn one very well-made combat system in your early sessions and then have the total freedom to roleplay intensely and push the game to the maximum because you don't have to learn more bullshit every single level. And as a game master, you don't need to be responsible for knowing every edge case associated with someone's broken multi-class build or third-party feat tree. Mythras is a unique game. It gives everyone at the table a common set of tools during combat and doesn't rely on endless subsystems or manipulating the rules to create a perfectly synergized set of named powers siloed in a class. Other games offer you the illusion of choice by giving enormous decision trees to navigate when you level up, but always end up putting you in a straitjacket based on those choices. Mythras actually gives you meaningful choices that affect the course of a battle in dramatic ways. This gives you a very immersive experience without sacrificing the gameplay aspects of role-playing games. Instead of separating these two things, it integrates them. And there's a lot more to the combat system that we didn't cover here. There is a simple action economy, rules for weapon reach, damage reduction through parrying, shields and armor, and a host of actions that can change the course of a fight outside of the use of special effects. It's deep, tactical, and very satisfying. And if you want a taste of Mythras but aren't ready to jump in quite yet, you can get a simplified version of the core rules in a PDF for free from DriveThruRPG by searching for Mythras Imperative. But if you are more than a little intrigued and ready to take the Mythras pill, go to the Design Mechanism website and use promo code BLACKLodge15 for 15% off your order in their bookstore. Mythras is an awesome game that solves all of the bog-standard problems that have plagued RPG combat for decades. Give it a shot and keep your eyes on this channel because we have a lot more to cover on all that Mythras has to offer.